Everyone has played a sport at some point in their life. Some individuals play all the way through high school, college, and even professional league. Others, it may be that their parents put them in the sport to try it out and they quit before they hit middle school. Sports for many people is a way of life and shapes them to be the person they are and helps them discover their identity. I know it did for me. I met some of my best friends from playing sports all throughout high school until I graduated. If you are good enough to make it to the professional league as a woman, you know that you will get paid for playing the sport, which is great until you find out it is nowhere near the same as a male player. This year's Equal Pay Day was April 2nd, the day that symbolizes how far into the second year that women must work on average to earn what men earned in the previous year. It does not matter if you play the same sport, a women athlete does not get paid nearly the amount that they should, like a male does. The disparity between men and women in sports is based on sexist ideologies protruded into the 21st century by the gender pay gaps. In the eyes of almost every person out there that knows sports, they would agree. It all started when professional soccer player Mia Hamm realized that women were getting paid less than the men, and she started a fight for equal pay. Mia Hamm was a player that everyone wanted to be. She was a role model. When she started this fight, it was not hard for her to get people to follow her in her footsteps for equal pay. What's happening right now is not just happening in soccer, but across the country, Hamm told CNBC Make It. Hamm felt that people invested where they saw they could not make money, and the fact that no one invested in women meant that they did not believe in them. This last March, over 24 women filed a gender discrimination lawsuit against U.S. soccer. These women are not just fighting for their paychecks, but also their flight conditions, their medical attention they receive, the coaching, and how they play. The two groups are paid differently based on the contracts they both signed. The men's contract had them getting paid by pay for play, and the women are guaranteed salaries and benefits. For example, a female player who played and won 20 exhibition matches would receive just 89% of what a male player would get under the exact same circumstances. This is because of the contracts they signed, yet when the women filed the lawsuit and tried to change their contract, FIFA and US Soccer wouldn't change it. They said they'd have to wait until after the World Cup, yet nothing has changed. There are many other professional sports teams such that are experiencing this pay gap. For example, the women's national hockey team. They had decided that the team would boycott the 2017 World Championship over a pay dispute. During the time of all this, men were able to bring whoever they wanted to the championship matches, but the women weren't able to bring anybody. Also, the women had to share rooms while the men did not. They got their own rooms to themselves. The men are just valued more than the women. The women even had to fly to their matches economy classes, and the men got the privilege to fly business class. The women's team eventually got better options like the men did. The boycott threat eventually paid off, with USA Hockey providing the women's team travel and insurance agreements equal to those received by the men. The women are still getting paid less than the men, but they did get some upgrades for saying they would boycott their championship game. The women's national hockey team were fighting for this equal pay because they were not making livable wages. The team soon went on to win their first gold medal in 20 years. After the team fought for equal pay and treatment, starting forward, Hillary Knight stated, "We're passionately pursuing something for the greater good." Another sport that women are of course not treated the same and or paid equal as women's national basketball team. WNBA stars including AJ Wilson, Brittany Griner, Liz Cambage, and Skylar Diggins-Smith have all spoken out about the WNBA salaries compared to their NBA counterparts. In order to make a living playing basketball, most players compete overseas during the off-season to supplement their income. Women must be away from their homes and or families in order to make money they deserve to being able to live. The fight for women's equality has been going on for decades, and now it has progressed to women's sports as well within the last 10 years. As athletes, we have to fight. As women, we have to fight, Diggins-Smith told Bleacher Report, and we need more people at our table to fight with us, she told Wealth Simple. On an average, men playing basketball make millions more than women starting out. WNBA players will make, on average, somewhere between $79,000. While men are making the average starting salary of NBA players is upwards of $500,000, and two of its best players, Steph Curry and LeBron James, both earning well over $32 million a year. Women have to be more than, they just can't make the kind of money men make playing their sport, Levy said. They have to be marketable. They have to have a cause, a look, a flamboyant personality, something unique. There are plenty of women who are known between Megan Rapinoe, Alex Morgan, Serena Williams, etc. Many women playing professional sports and just community members are trying to fight this fight with these women and try to get them the money they should be making just like men. There is a huge pay gap between all men's and women's sports besides tennis. Tennis has had pay gap issues as well. They were able to get more of a higher salary and managed to win their battle with the U.S. Tennis Organization, as stated by Billie Jean King, a tennis legend who led the pay gap for women's tennis. Everyone thinks women should be thrilled when they get crumbs, and I want women to have the cake, the icing, and the cherry on top too. This metaphor is a good one to explain how women should be getting all the same things men do. The traveling conditions, the coaches they have, the money, and so much more. She managed to get that change in 1973 when she was going to sit out. She said she would not play unless the winners of the U.S. Open Cup are paid equally, and ever since 1973, U.S. Tennis has been paying them the same. Serena and Venus Williams, the power duo of women's tennis, have been continuing this fight that Billie King started to get all the other tennis tournaments to pay equally between the men and the women. Many of these athletes are having to take on other jobs along with paying a professional sport to help them live, such as Alex Morgan. Along with playing for the women's national soccer team, she models as well. Inequality.org stated women then make staggeringly less than what men players like Cristiano Ronaldo are simply for playing the game. While some men get much of their income from advertising as well, it is not the same scale and tends to not be the same proportion as women who rely on this type of exposure for their income. No one should be getting paid that much money just for playing a professional sport, especially when women are making such a lower amount than men. Not only should women's pay gap go up, but the respect for women should also increase. The women's pay and respect for them as athletes should grow accordingly. The pay gap goes way beyond sports. It even carries into the educational world. Men and women can have the same amount of schooling or experience for an occupation, and women still get paid less than men. Women are paid 78% of what men are paid on the average in nearly every occupation. Women are disrespected and not treated equally as men. This is an ongoing problem that the world as a whole has to be willing to change. It cannot just be a small chunk. Everyone has to do it. Women should be respected this day and age. Instead, we are still not treated the way men are treated. Power is what women need. They need to be in high up positions within sports in order for anything to change. There are also many reasons why the pay gap still exists. These include sexism, mismatched media coverage, and most disconcerting, the lack of women holding governing positions in sports organizations. With no significant change being made to ensure equality in pay and representation, female athletes will remain on the short end of the pay scale for the foreseeable future. This is where, as community members, can help change by voting women into more powerful positions within the world, whether it be the government or sports organizations. This is one way we can start a change. There's always the question of why. Why are women being paid less than men? This is because women have been treated poorly for so long that the world keeps thinking they can take advantage of these women. Women have been at a disadvantage when it comes to men for decades. For women in professional sports, it could take years to catch up with a male's average pay. Men could be a huge help to getting this problem changed quickly. If men were starting to join the fight for equal pay, it would show these sports organizations and the government that women are just as equal as men in everything we do. It was always a hope to play a professional sport, but the older I got, I had decided it was not for me. But topics like this pay gap still irritate me and make me want to fight for these women and also myself, give them my support, and try to help. For those of you women who may go on to playing professional sports, or that is your goal one day to do, know that you will be expecting the same thing these women are. You will have to become a part of this fight to better the world, not just for yourself, but for the future women you are growing up or wanting to become sports players. Whether in a paycheck, on television, in print media, or on social media, we need to do better to recognize the value and power of women in sports. Hopefully it will get to the point one day that all sports, basketball, soccer, tennis, hockey, etc., will make it to where male and female athletes are making the exact same amount.